Welcome back, everybody, for our last presentation of TechOpps over the last 2 days. We've had 2 keynote speakers and 27 CEOs presenting. Coby is the 28th presenting. Some people say we've left the best till last, so Coby, it's all up to you. I'm delighted to introduce Coby Hanoch, CEO of Weebit Nano, and obviously Weebit Nano, the company. A lot's been going on over the last 6 to 9 months, and there's a lot coming up too. So I might throw hand across to Coby to talk about the company, the technology, and importantly, the path forward. Thanks, Coby.
Thanks, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everyone still has a bit of energy for me. So I'll be talking about Weebit. Weebit is an Israeli high-tech company focused on computer memory technology, specifically what's called non-volatile memories, which are the memories that retain the data even when you turn off the power. So that's like a USB stick or an SSD drive in your laptop. This is a very big market. Today it's estimated at over 60 billion US dollars. It's expected to grow rapidly to over 100 billion US by 2025. And, very excited space to be in. The existing technology in this space is called Flash. Our technology is resistive RAM or ReRAM, which is much faster, lower power, more advanced in many ways and lower cost to manufacture. Actually, we're using silicon oxide, which is the most standard material in the semiconductor industry, unlike any of the other new types of memories that are introducing new types of materials which are very difficult to introduce to fabrication houses, and they require new materials, new equipment, etc. So this is a huge advantage. We can just go into a new fabrication house and with some tweaks start manufacturing. We don't have to waste a lot of time and money on that. That's one of the things that enabled us to move forward so quickly. And today we already have a proof of concept or prototype in our hands. It was already verified by a third party, and we're now moving into our what I call productization and commercialization phase, talking to production partners. I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team supporting me. My background is already more than 40 years in semiconductors. I was one of the founders of Vericity that later on was sold for 315 million US dollars. I was in Jasper where I doubled the sales and had the company acquired as well. And the team around me, Dadi Perlmutter, our chairman, is very, very well known in the industry. He was number 2 at Intel, basically managed every single one of the Pentium designs from the very first one. And he's really involved in what we're doing and great support. We have Yoav Nissan Cohen as an executive director working part-time in the company. He did his PhD under Dov Fruman, the guy who invented non-volatile memories. So he's been in this business since day one. And not only has he been involved in non-volatile companies, he's the guy who basically set up Tower Semiconductor, one of the largest, the leading fabs in the world today. So he knows the whole process of manufacturing inside and out. Atik Raza, back in the 90s, there was a relatively less known company called AMD, and they basically took him on board to be their CEO. And I think the rest is history. Today, AMD is, you could say, more advanced than Intel already. We have Amir, our CTO, who's been in this business for a long time in companies and so on. And of course, we have two Australian directors that are really supporting me, Fred Bart and Ashley Krongold, helping govern the company. So, when we talk about semiconductors, it's really important to understand, what we're talking about. Basically any electronic equipment, any computer system that you're talking about is totally based on semiconductors. So, you look back 10 years at the top 10 market cap companies in the world, and they were energy companies, they were finance companies. There was only one company that was basically dependent on semiconductors in its business, or totally dependent. They all depend on semiconductors, but that's their business itself is semiconductor. Today, the top 5 are all semiconductor companies. Basically, you have 7 of the top 10 semiconductor companies. And this just shows the transition that we've gone through. Everything in the world today is totally dependent on semiconductors. And that's where we are. Actually, specifically, we're in the memory space, which is the fastest growing niche in semiconductors. Memories are everywhere. They're in your cell phone computers, they're in your communication devices, they're in autonomous vehicles, they're in artificial intelligence, IoT, security, you name it. It can't work without semiconductors, and specifically without memories in there. When we talk about backing up our data to the cloud, clouds are not those white things up in the sky. Clouds are huge data centers full of unbelievable amounts of non-volatile memory. So it's so this year, for example, Gartner said that semiconductors are expected to remain flat, but the memory market is going to continue to grow double digits. And that basically shows you, where we're at right now in this industry. Just very quickly to try to explain this market, there are 2 types of memories. There's the volatile that's very fast, but if you cut off the power, it basically forgets everything. And there's the non-volatile, like I mentioned earlier, the USB sticks, the SSD drives that retain the data. This domain is growing rapidly with all of the videos and pictures and data that people are producing. And it too is divided into 2 key parts. There's the embedded memory, where you take a memory and you embed it inside a system on a chip, so it's part of the chip. And then there's the discrete memory or the standalone memory chips, where the whole chip is memory. Weebit is basically involved in both. We're focused right now on the embedded memory market. The product that we have in our hands is already suitable for this market. The memory array that we have in our hands is suitable for this market. It is showing very good, very competitive technical results. And we're now finalizing, the packaging, if you want to call it that way, the memory module that surrounds the memory array and interfaces with the rest of the system. And then we'll be able to go to move into commercialization. So Weebit is actually a global company. We're focused on customers worldwide. Everyone needs memory. You saw the big semiconductor companies. So we're talking to companies in the US, in Europe, in Korea, and elsewhere. But we've identified a very strong Chinese opportunity. China is today already the largest semiconductor market. Its needs are growing rapidly. You can see here on the right side of the screen, the blue line shows the needs that Chinese companies have, and the red line shows the internal manufacturing capability, which is clearly not managing to catch up. So they're investing now billions, hundreds of billions of dollars into building up their semiconductor infrastructure. They're building now 30 fabs in parallel, which is an unbelievable number. It's just totally crazy. Now, when you look at their imports of semiconductors, you can see that the two largest imports are from SK Hynix and Samsung. These are basically memory companies. Hynix is totally memory. Samsung is by far, the largest product is memory. That's the big need they have. So when they see Weebit, they are really excited about our technology. As soon as we started talking to people there, and we already announced a couple of companies that we're working with XTX, more on the discrete or standalone memory side, and CN, which is a fab and a design company. There are others that we're talking to. It's really exciting to see this huge opportunity, and they really want to have more advanced memory technology. So we're very happy to be talking to them. In terms of where we stand today, developing semiconductors is a very long process. If you look at companies and how long it's taken them to develop technologies like this, I think our competitors are practically all of them more than 10 years old and still developing more or less either where we are or even behind us. So in 5 years, we managed to make very fast progress. Today, I mentioned we already have a memory array that is answering the vast majority of the needs of the embedded market. We just announced that we finished what's called the stabilization process, which is a key step towards mass production. We basically now have a technology where over 99% of the memory cells are functional. This is what's standard in the industry. The process is repeatable, it's reproducible. We have uniformity across the wafer between the dies, which are basically the chips. So, now we're really ready to move into a production fab, and we're already talking to several production fabs about this. Very exciting time for us. I will note that, you never stop developing the technology. You always have to continue to improve and add functionality, make it more robust, etc. So the development effort is going on in parallel, but now the big focus is on the production and talking to those first potential customers and partners. So this is kind of our roadmap. You can see 2 years ago, we already announced that we have a megabit array, which is the size that can address the vast majority of the embedded market. We went through several steps of process optimization, validating the technology at a third party, and now, doing the stabilization. In parallel, we've engaged with more and more partners and potential customers. So the goal is by earlier next year to have the memory module ready, and then move on to commercial agreements later on in the middle of the year. And before I end this presentation, I want to talk about one point that is in our future. I talked about embedded, I talked about standalone computers or standalone memories. Our memory actually can fit a third application, which is in artificial intelligence. So it turns out that a ReRAM cell functions in a very similar way to a synapse in your brain. And the academia has recognized this, and now there is a lot of research about how we can emulate the human brain using ReRAM technology. So not simulate like people do today, but emulate, which is orders of magnitude more efficient. And this is really exciting. Weebit has actually been a pioneer in this phase. Last year, we presented in conferences the very first time that spiking neural network algorithms ran on ReRAM. We presented it in a couple of conferences, actually got an award from a prestigious conference on this. It's a very exciting technology. It's something that's being done in the background right now. It's mostly in our academic partner that are working on it, but we're very much following up and involved in that work. So, as I said, today we're focused on the embedded and we want to get to commercialization. I know that all of our investors are waiting to see us get to those first agreements. But you can just know that there's a lot ahead of us. So to summarize, Weebit is in the semiconductor space that is, basically the basis for anything that you do today. No company in the world today can function without computers, and computers can't function without semiconductors, and specifically without memories. So we're really in the core enablement of anything that's happening today. We have a very advanced technology. Unlike other new technologies, it's an easy to use technology for the fabs. We can go into any fab in the world, and with a little tweaking and adjustment, we can start manufacturing. We don't need them to introduce new materials, new tools, or anything like that. Our technology is now ready to be transferred to these production fabs. We already had it confirmed by a third party. And, it's very exciting with such a board and such a technology. I think we have very good days ahead of us. So thank you.
Thanks, Coby. It's a great presentation. We've probably only got a few minutes. We're running about 5 minutes late today, so we'll try and keep it to the timeframes. And your comment on the board, I have to say, I don't know of any other ASX company that has so many industry luminaries on their boards, and certainly not someone of the caliber of David Perlmutter. I think the last time I would have, and again, I might be wrong here, so any of the participants can correct me, but I think the last similar caliber person might have been Jack Nasser, who was the chairman of BHP, in terms of their standing in the global industry. So, it just says something about the potential of the company to have not just so many luminaries, but someone of the standing of David Perlmutter in the global semiconductor industry as your chair. So if I just throw to a couple of questions, if I might, please. And by the way, there's a long list of questions here. We don't have time, so we'll have to circle back with a lot of people. But if I might start with one, and it's something that comes up often, how does Weebit compare to 4DS or other competitors in terms of technology and time to market / commercialization?
Well, I don't like to normally talk about specific competitors, but since 4DS is a public company and they announce where they stand, I would just comment. I showed on our timeline 2 years ago, we already announced that we have a megabit array, and we've been improving it since then. To the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen any announcement from them on having any kind of array, not a kilobit or a megabit array. So, I might be wrong, but I haven't seen that in any of their announcements. I don't know which materials they are using, from what I've heard. And, the indications that we have, like basically any of the other companies, these are not the standard, not silicon oxide or something that's very standard. But again, I want to be very cautious that I don't really know, I haven't talked to them or checked, so.
Okay. Another question, you mentioned silicon oxide, and obviously one of the issues with some of your other technology companies in ReRAM was they were trying to use alternative methods. What are the sustainable competitive advantages that Weebit has, acknowledging that we're still early on in the, it's not like it's technology that's currently being used in items, but what's Weebit's sustainable technology advantages that you see?
So first of all, since Australians are normally not familiar with the fabrication of silicon, silicon fabs cost billions of dollars to set up. They are so delicate. Everything there is, it's measured in nanometers, which are these very, very tiny. It's 10 to the minus 9 of a meter. So introducing a new type of material into a fab is a nightmare. And new equipment and whatever, it's costly in time and money and efforts and everything, and people really don't like it. When you have to do that with every fab that you go to manufacture, it's a huge setback. So we have this huge advantage that we can go into any fab and manufacture with relatively few tweaks and so on. Our technology today, in terms of endurance, you can write into our memory 1 million times before it stops functioning. Just to give you a feel, the USB stick that you have in your hand probably today is 1,000 to 10,000 times, and it stops functioning. So we're 100 times better than the current technology in terms of endurance. We also function in high temperatures, so we can retain the data for 10 years, even at 130 or 150 degrees Celsius, which makes us a potential for the automotive industry, which requires, high temperatures in the engine and so on. So we have many strong competitive advantages. I think I can say we're a leading technology today in this space in many aspects. And looking forward to actually getting into the mass production soon.